what's better for you? A carnivore diet, which is basically a meat and dairy diet, or a plant-based diet? Well, stay tuned, because that's what we're talking about today. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is, regardless of where you sit in terms of this argument, I think we can all agree that the weather in Scotland this summer has been completely pish. It's absolutely terrible. Anyway, let's get started. So what are those two diets? Well, carnivore diet, as it sounds, is a diet where mostly you're eating meat-based products, and a whole food plant-based diet is where you're eating mostly plants. Both of them have got advantages, but perhaps one of them has more disadvantages than the other, and I'll try and go through those in a divided way, or I should say a non-biased way. What I would like to say first, straight away off the bat, is they're probably both healthier than the standard Western diet, which is utterly garbage and full of processed foods and things which aren't very good for us, which lead to quite a lot of disease and illness. The other thing to say is, no matter where you lie in this argument, a plant-based diet is better for the planet, and it's certainly better for the animals. Now, this is one of the most hotly debated topics on the internet and in social media, and it's kind of strange because the science about the two is really quite clear. One of them is definitely better for you than the other, but there's so many people out there arguing for each side that it's hard to make sense. But ultimately, social media isn't really where you should get your information from. I include myself. Don't listen to me. Go and do the research. And by research, I don't mean listen to your pal who heard it from a guy. I mean, go and look at the science. It's very obvious that certain diets are good for you and certain diets aren't. You know, I've recently been trolled a couple of times for videoing while I'm running. I've tried to explain that it's the only time I get a chance to film, but under the circumstances, I probably agree with those people, because running in this weather, it's terrible. It's almost like middle of the night. It's so dark and it's wet and misty. Look at the fog. Look at that. Wait, I'll do this. Here's the thumbnail. Right, anyway. So, yeah, I'm sorry that I'm doing this while I'm running, but it's the only time I can really film. So back to getting your information. If you want to know something about, say, stenting of an artery, you wouldn't just listen to your pal who had it done and said it was good. You would look at the cardiology work and take that on board and decide based on what a panel of experts say, who have got the qualifications, have done the research. So when it comes to diet, because we eat, all of us eat 3 or 4 times or more a day, we all think we're experts. But what we are experts in is how we feel. And if you choose a nutritional lifestyle that you feel good about and that you feel is keeping you healthy, then stick to that one. Just switch the channel off now, ignore me, and stick to that particular way of living, because if you enjoy it and you feel good, you're way more likely to stick to it, and consistency trumps everything else. Oh, it's too dangerous to run here. It's so dark and there's tree roots all over the place. I end up breaking my neck here. There's another thing to consider, and a lot of us aren't aware of this. It's called a confirmation bias, which means, well, there's another description of it, and that's called the handy hammer theory, which is where if I give you a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. So as humans, we're very good at looking for evidence to support our beliefs and not actually taking into account objective evidence. So if you are someone who believes plant-based diet's better for you, you watch videos, you'll read internet posts which say it's better for you, and that'll just confirm your bias. But the best thing to do is look at the opponent, see what they're saying, see if they're proving their point in a good way, and then make your decision. There's a chap called Simon Hill. He's got a podcast called The Power Podcast, and nettles. And he's very good at objectively looking at the evidence. So maybe check out his podcast. So what are those two diets? Well, carnivore diet basically, there's lots of nuance, but keto diet, Atkins diet, carnivore diet, I'm sure the haters will say that they're different, but they're not that different. They're basically a meat diet, meat fat, meat protein. That's it. And a whole food plant-based diet is what it sounds like. It's whole foods, which means they've not really been tampered with. You can look up a thing called the NOVA classification. So they're not in the processed or ultra processed range, and they're plants, right? It's pretty straightforward. So meat or plants, that's your two options for these two diets. I've just realised I keep using the word diet. I made a video called Diet's a 4-letter word. Yeah, it still is a 4-letter word. I should be saying about nutritional lifestyle or something like that, or I don't know, personal consumption habits, personal dietary consumption habits. Maybe that's a better phrase. Jeez, I'm bloody lost. It's like I'm going to be, it's like the Blair Witch Project here. End up facing a wall in a dark room with handprints all over the wall. And, okay. I need to have some snot running out my nose as I'm running. Okay, so the first benefit to both of these diets, or nutritional choices, is that you'll lose weight on both of them. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The carnivore diet, burn fat as your primary fuel source, and because you're not eating any carbohydrates, particularly refined carbohydrates and any other junk, you'll definitely lose weight. And the same goes for there's that again, I haven't done that for. Same goes for a whole food plant-based diet. If you remove all the junk, you'll start to lose weight. In the West, obesity is a huge problem. It's basically a pandemic. And in the UK, something like 68% of all men currently are either overweight or obese. I think it's 53, 55% of women. That's a problem, because that in itself causes a lot of health issues, including type 2 diabetes risk, cardiovascular risk, dementia risk, inflammatory illness risk, all of those things. There's other things that they cause, like osteoarthritis, risk of autoimmune illness. Really, if you can get your weight down, you can solve quite a lot of problems. Predominantly, if you lose weight, you feel better. And like I said earlier on, if you feel better, you're more likely to stick to that way of living. And that is probably the most important thing, that if you can stick to it, then that's not bad. But that's where the similarities probably end for these two ways of living. Where do they split? Well, the first reason is that the gut microbiome is really important. Now, that must have arisen for an evolutionary reason. And what we do know is when the gut microbiome is healthy, we're physically more healthy, and we're mentally more healthy. And those creatures, whatever you want to call them, live predominantly on plant food. So when you eat various starches and fibres, those go to the guts, and your gut microbiome love those, eat them, and produce lots of effects in the colon. A simple one to get your head around is that they produce about 70% of your serotonin, which is your happy chemical. I should clarify, it's not the bacteria that are producing it, it's the colon. The colon produces about 70% of your serotonin, and we always thought 100% of it was coming from the brain, but it's actually the colon that makes the majority of it, and it pretty much only does that when you give it plant food. And the guts tell the colon the world's a happy place, loads of plants out there, we're not in a feast, we're not in a famine, and the food quality is good. And the colon goes, alright, things are good, you should feel good, because the colon is really an out-facing organ, and it's sensing what's going on in the world around it. Right, I could have actually filmed this in slightly brighter weather, but I'm trying to get it all done before my notes wash off my hand because it's raining now. I completely forgot where I was at. I was talking about the colon. Anyway, if you look at the gut microbiome, meat and dairy, not all dairy, but meat predominantly, particularly processed meats, which I realise isn't in some of these very clean diets, cause a lot of problems with the gut microbiome and called dysbiosis. And we know that dysbiosis is related to loads of illnesses. The science on that's really clear. If you eat a whole food plant-based diet, that doesn't happen. In fact, the opposite happens. The gut microbiome becomes more diverse, more robust, and interacts in a more healthy way with the lining of the gut. And it's better for you pretty much on any measurement. But once again, I will say that in comparison to standard Western or standard American diet, a carnivore diet is better because you're not eating any processed or ultra processed foods, give or take, and that's definitely beneficial to the relatively fixed, poor nutritional habits that a lot of us have. A slight issue making this comparison is diets like carnivore diet have not really been around long enough for us to see the long-term risks. I haven't seen a randomised control trial yet. It's quite hard to do that for nutritional testing of any kind, even whole food plant-based. But I'm sure in the years to come there'll be more data. Jeez, it's dark in this tunnel. More Blair Witch territory. So what I was trying to allude to there is we don't know the lifetime risk. I will say once again, the lifetime risk of the standard Western diet is death. On many fronts, you're likely to have a higher mortality, which is death, and a higher morbidity, which is illness. And that is absolutely true, that rates of diabetes are shooting up, rates of cardiovascular disease are shooting up, rates of dementia, Alzheimer's are shooting up. All of these illnesses are going up, and they're definitely linked in part to our nutrition. And that nutrition that we get, the stuff from the packets, the stuff with the preservatives and stabilising agents and E-numbers, the stuff that isn't recognisable as food and more recognisable politically, industrially manufactured food-like or edible substances, they're not really true food. The body doesn't know what to do with that. And a lot of these choices lead to profound changes in the body, predominantly inflammation and high oxidative stress. And we know for a fact that those lead to illness. Now, if you have a diet which has processed food and a lot of meat and dairy and animal products in it, then the meat, well, certainly the saturated fat in the meat, compounds the problem. And I don't know at this stage yet, when you remove the ultra processed component of those and you're eating a very clean meat-based diet, whether the effects are still there. Because I would presume that, and presumption is, they say, presumption is the mother of all F-ups, or assumption, anyway. But I would presume that's better for you. And again, just whichever nutritional plan you can stick to is the best one for you, as long as it avoids the standard Western diet and processed foods and junk and snacking and crisps and sweets and all the things we love. Yeah. However, there have been vegans for many, many, many years. There's been vegetarians, pescatarians, people on the Mediterranean diet, all those things for centuries or longer. And the evidence is very clear that those people do live a healthier life, lower mortality rates, lower morbidity and illness, and therefore the lifetime risk for them is well reduced by choosing plant-based options. And I hope I've given you a bit of an impartial view on those two. I think it's hard to make up your mind when there's so much information and disinformation out there, but it comes down to this: how do you feel? Look, if you feel good eating pizza and Haribo, even after you've eaten it, and you're happy with a 42 waist, or the fact you can't walk up a flight of stairs, keep going. I know where you're headed, and I suspect you do too. But if you do want to make a change, then pick something that aligns with your values. And if your values are that of personal responsibility, then you'll probably find one of the nutritional plans fits you and it leads you down a healthier path. And in that case, I don't care whether you're on carnivore, keto, Atkins, all of those things. Although nobody seems to talk about Atkins anymore because people went into kidney failure and liver failure and things like that and died. But anyway, or if you go on a whole food plant-based, remember it's not plant-based, it's whole food plant-based. Doritos can be plant-based, they're not a whole food. Same goes for Coca-Cola. They could say that that's vegan Coca-Cola, but nonsense. Any other fizzy drink. So pick whichever one you want, but I'll leave you with this thought. In the world today, we kill 220 million cows a day for human consumption. And when you factor in other animals and fish, the estimates are anywhere from 4.5 to 6.5 billion animals killed a day. So if you want to be on a diet that consumes meat products, remember, you might feel better from a physical point of view. I don't think you can feel better from a moral point of view. And the other thing to consider is that plant-based diets are significantly lower in terms of their environmental and climate change impact or planetary health from a planetary health point of view. So if you can't decide between the two, have a think. Do you like animals? Do you like the planet? The answer to those two is yes. And maybe think about eating less animals. It seems a bit simple, but it's basically what it comes down to. We've got one planet, we're currently messing it up pretty badly. Do we need to? Probably not. But you have some power there and some autonomy to make some choices which might actually be helpful. And I hope you make the right decision for yourself, and perhaps as a byproduct of that, you'll make the right decision for animals and for the planet. Right, I better get on with this run because my mate's about a kilometre ahead because I've been filming for the last half an hour. Have I got anything else to say about that? Oh yeah, maybe this. We're not really carnivores. We don't have the right teeth. We can move our jaw side to side. A lion can't. Tyrannosaurus Rex can't. Wolves can't. And we've also got molars for chewing plants. And our closest living relative is the chimpanzee, and its diet is 3% meat, and that's mainly insects. So maybe that's worth thinking about. We're also not really true omnivores. There's only two, and that's bears and raccoons, and they've got other adaptations that we don't, that allow them to have a completely varied diet. So it's just something to think about. But these, I would not win in a fight with a lion using my teeth. Okay, so maybe let's think about that next time you're going down the butchers or whatever. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. It's more just a bit of fun, but I hope there's a few messages in there that get you thinking, because I can't change what you do, I can't control how you eat. Only you can. So could policymakers, but they want to turn a blind eye to this sometimes. So stay healthy, make good choices, and sorry for filming while running again, but you know, for those of you out there that don't like it, well, piss off. I haven't got another time that I can film. And for us, it's quite hard running and filming. So improvement through discomfort, all that jazz. Right, take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.